Young and the Restless fans, yes, we are back with another standalone video. Welcome back to the channel, and look like we have another mystery on our hands. I mean, we had a big one this summer when it came to the Bold and the Beautiful. Well, it looks like as we have the 13,000th episode on November 13th, it looks like somebody is in the mix when it comes to this mystery about who killed Heather Stevens. And if you've already watched the November 13th episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But for those that have not, this may be a little bit of a spoiler for you. And so we'll talk about it. And so without any further ado, let's have a discussion on who killed Heather Stevens. So, if you've seen the November 13th episode, you saw where Phyllis was having a conversation with Daniel. And while having that conversation with Daniel, she received a very cryptic text message, look like it's coming from Sharon, saying, "You win. I can't take it anymore. I'm ready to tell the truth, but I need to make a deal with you first. Meet me at my house." However, at the coffee house, Sharon does not have her phone. Yes, her and her daughter Faith is looking for her phone, which now means that somebody else has taken Sharon's phone and now has been texting Phyllis. Now, the question is, who could have done this? Also, she continuously received text messages, so much so, and also with Sharon being on the road as well, she got a flash of light in the back of her car. However, all of the text messages that Phyllis was receiving, she was distracted, and somebody or she herself ran into incoming traffic, and it left us with that cliffhanger. But the question remains, who is texting Phyllis when Sharon does not have her phone? Which means there could be another person, a third party involved with the Heather Stevens mystery. So first up, let's talk about Sharon Newman. Now, as we go all the way back to June when this storyline started, it was the history with Faith and Cassie and the remembrance of her with regards to the accident with Faith and Lucy, leading up to the point where she wanted to set up a whole plot in order to make Daniel pay, even though we know that, Cassie was disobedient and she drove him home. It wasn't a situation that Daniel actually did anything to her. But anyway, going back to the current plot at hand in 2024, it looks like from everything that we saw with her actually trying to poison Daniel and his family, she wasn't successful. We saw the situation with Heather coming in, and we actually saw a little bit of an argument between those two where she ended up pushing her on the floor, yet Heather was very much alive when she woke up to look at Sharon. However, Sharon, we flipped to a scene where she blacked out, and when she woke up again, it was a situation that she was now dead, bashed in the head, blood pouring out, and of course we know the rest, where Sharon decided to clean up the whole scene and then of course use all of that stuff that she had at the scene to set up Daniel. However, with that blackout moment, a lot of us here, even on this channel, has been assuming that there's something more that meets the eye in regards to the situation because of that, and so it left us to believe that they were leaving an opening for Sharon to get off, as this was part of her 30th anniversary, along with Phyllis's 30th anniversary, going back through 1994 in the month of September, and also for Phyllis in the month of October. However, we now lead up into this 13,000 episode, and so it looks like there is somebody else involved, as I aforementioned, even though Sharon had a lot of hands-on with this situation. But the problem is now, who actually did this? Do I think Sharon actually unalived Heather? In my opinion, and the way that it looks, probably not. So let's talk about this next option, Lucy Romalotti. Now, I know that this name has came up, and There was a question on whether or not her whereabouts could be accounted for when she had her actual community service. Now, the thing is that we saw Daniel sit down with Summer and Phyllis over at Society, and then he came over to pick up Lucy that same night over from the GCAC where she was doing her community service. Now, it could be led to believe that maybe she could have slipped out, went back over to the house, saw Sharon there, saw this as a way of doing this. Now, in my opinion, I don't think she would take out her mother, but obviously there is some speculation here. Could she been upset with her mom wanting to move everybody out of the country, keeping her from Faith and that whole relationship? Anything is possible. However, would she impact her mom to the point that taking her life, the mom that she's ever known, having a situation that put her dad in prison, and also with this whole thing that's happening on the November 13th episode, have a situation that could hurt her grandmother, which also not only in turn hurts her father because Phyllis is his mom, but also hurt her Aunt Summer as well because Phyllis is her mom too. So, I mean, anything is possible. They could make it a twist, and I know they made it a twist on The Bold and the Beautiful where Luna was actually setting up her own mother. But at this point, we know that Lucy is way off on tour with Danny, and we saw on the November 11th episode where Danny actually had communicated to Cricket about her being almost part of the band and being like part of the crew. So, and the other thing is, if she was missing long enough to come back to Genoa City, steal Sharon's phone, text her grandmother to get her in this situation, where would she get all the resources and the travel to do that? Plus, Danny would also be missing her, wondering where she is, and be calling back to Genoa City to let them know of the fact that she is MIA. So, I mean, in my opinion, anything is possible, but I don't think it's Lucy. Okay, this next option has been circulating as well. Sheila Carter Sharp. Now, as we know, Sheila Carter is on The Bold and the Beautiful, as she is blissfully married to Deacon Sharp. Now, we know that we really haven't seen her as much. Could it be a possibility that, could she have escaped the YNR, or maybe the writers on YNR want her to cross over? We all know that Sheila Carter has always crossed over between both soaps over the last 35 years. Could this be a possibility that they could use her in this twist as well? What motive would she have? I mean, Lucy is her granddaughter. Her actual daughter, which we'll talk about in a minute, is Daisy Carter as well. I mean, so anything is possible. We know that she has the villainous spirit to do so. But the question is, would she really disrupt her entire life? Because she's definitely living the soft girl era over at Il Giardino with her husband, Deacon Sharp, and running the business. So it would be an interesting twist if they did cross over Sheila Carter. But what could the possibilities of that actually be? Well, it could be, she has the possible motive. She has the actual fortitude to do this. But would they actually cross her over? Who knows? It's a possibility. And I guess, you know what? We'll have to see. Let's talk about another Carter, Daisy Carter, which at the time was played by Yvonne Zima, which of course was the daughter of Sheila Carter and Tom Fisher. Remember Terrible Tom? She was introduced in the storyline as Abby's friend. She was working over at Lauren Fenmore's boutique, but, of course, she and her brother came to town to avenge their mother Sheila's death by Lauren. However, the most intriguing thing about the whole storyline with Daisy was her obsession with Daniel Romalotti. As you guys remember, she drugged Daniel and forced him to be intimate with her, although he was married to Amber. She got pregnant after the encounter but left town with her brother. Now, however, she did later arrive to announce the pregnancy of Lucy. Now, while she was imprisoned for those crimes, Phyllis got her out and took care of her and the unborn baby. Now, although well cared for, Daisy tried to escape but went into labor on the side of the road, and that happened back in 2011. Daniel found her, helped her deliver the baby. However, when he refused her romantic advances, she hit him on the head. So we know that she got a history of hitting people in the head. And when she returned, after a few months, it was revealed that the newborn baby that Victoria adopted was actually Daisy and Daniel's baby, Lucy. Now, while Daniel was ready to let go of the parental rights for the baby, Phyllis fought for the custody, hoping Daisy would be put back in jail. However, that's when Avery was around, helped Daisy's release. Daniel tried to fight for Lucy's custody, but lost it as the court gave total right to Lucy's mother. Now, angry with Daniel and Phyllis for not accepting her as family, Daisy walked out on Phyllis while, of course, the latter was miscarrying. Now, then she conned Kevin into giving her a job at Crimson Lights. Moreover, she dug up and threatened to expose Phyllis' past crime if they got her arrested. Now, after being threatened by criminal Ricky, Daisy disappeared from Genoa City and registered herself in the Fairview Psychiatric Facility with the alias of the name Scarlett. She met Sharon at the psychiatric hospital, and Sharon checked into that same facility. Now, after Daisy's whereabouts came out, Michael got court orders to question her. However, before he could do so, Daisy was checked out of the facility by a woman who claimed to be who? Sheila Carter. And of course, Daisy disappeared from the scene. It's been 12 years. And of course, Lucy came back in February 2023. So the question remains, could Daisy have an axe to grind against this entire family? I could actually see that. She has issues when she connected with Sharon. She has issues with both Daniel and Phyllis. And at the same time, of course, she would have issues with Heather being Lucy's mother for all this time, especially if she wanted to get back in her daughter's life. And of course, the common denominator in this whole situation is Lucy. Would she want her daughter back? I could see this as a possibility. I mean, just going through the history of Daisy Carter, all 3 or 4 of the persons mentioned in her previous storyline over a decade and a couple of years ago actually connect to the current storyline. So could it be a possibility that this could be Daisy? Of course. Now, would they use the same actress? It's possible. Could they recast Daisy and use someone that looks similar to her? That's possible. Could Lucy, if we wanted to tie Lucy into part of this, could she been working with her biological mother and her grandmother? I mean, roads kind of lead back to possibility of Daisy. But of course, we would have to stay tuned. But it would be an interesting thing to concede the fact that maybe Daisy could be possibly involved. And finally, there is another option I wanted to bring to the table. And could it be somebody else even unrelated to all of the other characters that we had? Now, as you guys remember, Heather had a boyfriend back in Portugal that she obviously was in a relationship with after she originally broke up with Daniel in Savannah and, of course, moved across the seas and was in a whole different relationship. Now, when she came back to town, she abruptly ended that. Could it be a possibility that we have an angry ex? We have a current angry ex storyline happening on The Bold and the Beautiful with Remy Price coming for Electra Forrester. Could it be something similar? Maybe they weren't happy about the relationship that had begun. It was, unfinished business, and this person possibly could want revenge for Heather moving on and getting back with Daniel. That's a possibility as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who this third party could be, especially since we got wind of this twist on the 13,000th episode, of course, on the November 13th episode. And so it's going to be interesting to see who the actual perpetrator is in this new mystery of who actually killed Heather. Okay, so there you have it. I want to know your thoughts. What say you? Who do you think? Was it one of the 5 people that we discussed today? Daisy, Sheila Carter, Sharon, Lucy, or maybe her ex, or maybe somebody else. I've heard situations where folks brought up Esther and Summer. Well, that's a big fat no because they're both over at the Newman estate for the wedding. So you'll see that in the November 13th episode as well. So what are your speculations? I mean, could Sharon be using someone else to help her that's not in her thoughts like Cameron, but could she be using an outside person as well? But I don't know because she would have not be missing her phone. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notifications so you're notified every time a video is posted. I'm T from Soap Corner Talk. To the next video. We'll see you all soon. Bye, Soapies.